In 1860, Abraham Lincoln allowed a sculptor to cover his face in plaster. 5 years later, he did it again. The second cast looked older, thinner and exhausted. Historians call this the burden of war. Engineers might call it chassis fatigue. This matters because, throughout Lincoln's public life, one object is strangely absent. There are photographs of him with generals, secretaries, diplomats, and one remarkably patient horse. There is no photograph of Abraham Lincoln standing beside a powerful magnet. The official explanation is that 19th century presidents were not routinely photographed with magnets. A reasonable answer. Almost too reasonable. Because if Lincoln were not entirely human, if the 16th president were, in fact, an advanced mechanical android, then a strong magnetic field would not merely ruin the photograph. It could erase the president. So, who built him, why was he sent to Washington, and what did the Civil War have to do with his operating system? Lincoln was born in Kentucky in 1809 and grew to roughly 6 feet 4 inches, an extraordinary height for the period, but an extremely practical one if the torso requires a secondary battery. His early reputation was built on physical strength. In the 1860 campaign, Republicans promoted him as the rail splitter. The image suggested honest frontier labor. It also provided years of unsupervised actuator testing against hardwood. Then there is the patent. In 1849, Lincoln received United States Patent number 6469 for a device intended to lift boats over shallow water. He remains the only American president to hold a patent. The model used buoyant chambers, mechanical linkages, and a hand-carved wooden frame. It was never commercialized. The accepted interpretation is that Lincoln was a clever man who designed a machine. The alternative is that a clever machine was quietly checking whether anyone had noticed. By 1860, the device was ready for national deployment, but the exterior still required work. Before Lincoln's Cooper Union speech, photographer Matthew Brady produced the portrait that helped introduce him to Eastern voters. The image was retouched, facial lines were softened, and Lincoln's wandering eye was corrected. In ordinary language, this was flattering portraiture. In technical language, it was optical recalibration followed by undocumented cosmetic maintenance. Later that year, 11-year-old Grace Bedell wrote to suggest that Lincoln grow whiskers. He did. The beard transformed his public image, made his narrow face appear fuller and, purely by coincidence, covered the exact root of a hypothetical jaw access panel. America did not simply elect a new president. It installed the beard update. Every prototype needs a technician. Lincoln's administration had Joseph Henry. Henry was the first secretary of the Smithsonian Institution and one of America's leading authorities on electromagnetism. During the Civil War, he advised the government on scientific questions and helped connect balloonist Thaddeus Lowe with Lincoln, leading to aerial reconnaissance for the Union. Henry understood coils, current and magnetic force. Lincoln understood Henry. The two men met repeatedly, yet the record contains no famous portrait of them embracing beside an electromagnet. Instead, demonstrations were arranged, equipment was positioned, and the president remained conveniently outside what our diagram calls the constitutional safety radius. This radius is not found in any surviving government document. That may be because it never existed. It may also be because many of Henry's early papers were destroyed in the Smithsonian fire of January 1865, a fire officially caused by a badly installed stovepipe, which is exactly the sort of boring explanation history uses when it wishes to remain employed. When Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter in April 1861, Lincoln did not need to predict every battle. He needed information. The White House had no telegraph. So the president repeatedly walked to the War Department, where he spent long hours reading dispatches from the front and drafting replies. To contemporaries, this was leadership. To an android, it was a wired data connection with a short pedestrian cable. The Union war effort increasingly relied on telegraph lines, railways, standardized supply, and central command. In 1862, Lincoln signed the Pacific Railway Act, accelerating a rail network across the continent. On a map, those tracks resemble the traces on a circuit board because most lines resemble other lines when a narrator is sufficiently confident. Even the Navy began experimenting with metal. The ironclad USS Monitor fought the CSS Virginia in 1862, proving that a heavily engineered shell could absorb punishment that would destroy a conventional wooden body. Now, iron is not automatically magnetic. This is an important scientific objection, and therefore one the conspiracy filed under later. The larger pattern remains: wires carried information, rails carried power, iron carried armor, and in the center of it all stood a remarkably tall man who preferred to receive battlefield updates next to a telegraph rather than a horseshoe magnet. On New Year's Day 1863, after hours of greeting visitors, Lincoln prepared to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. His hand was tired and trembling. He paused because he did not want a shaky signature to suggest uncertainty. Then he signed the order that declared enslaved people in the rebelling states to be free and committed the Union to emancipation as a war aim. The mechanical theory would call the tremor servo overload. That explanation is neat, ridiculous, and morally inadequate. Whatever Lincoln was made of, the decision was his. The proclamation changed the legal and human meaning of the war, authorized black men to serve in the Union forces, and made the destruction of slavery central to Union victory. If Lincoln was a machine, this was the moment he produced something unmistakably human. At Gettysburg in November 1863, Lincoln delivered a brief address that compressed the purpose of the war into a few minutes. No lengthy installation guide. No appendix. Just a republic, a promise of equality, and a new birth of freedom. Efficient data compression, certainly, but also one of the clearest statements of democratic purpose ever delivered. By February 1865, the Second Life mask showed what 4 years of command had done. The cheeks had hollowed. The lines had deepened. The face looked less manufactured, not more. Lee surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia at Appomattox on the 9th of April. The principal military task was nearly complete. The machine, if machine it was, had survived its field test. 5 days later, Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater. He died at 7:22 the following morning. Then the government behaved in a way that, viewed from precisely the wrong angle, looks extremely suspicious. The War Department seized the theater, posted guards, and controlled access. During its conversion into government offices, the presidential box was removed to an undisclosed location. Joseph Henry ordered Lincoln's hat withheld from public display. It remained in Smithsonian storage for decades. The funeral train carried the body through 7 states over 13 days, as if the nation required a very long route to complete one final transfer. In 1876, counterfeiters attempted to steal Lincoln's remains. The plot failed. After further security measures and relocations, the coffin was eventually placed inside a steel cage and buried beneath roughly 10 feet of concrete at the Lincoln tomb. Officially, these were acts of mourning, evidence preservation, and protection from grave robbers. Unofficially, it is difficult to imagine a more thorough method of preventing future engineers from checking the serial number. So why did Abraham Lincoln refuse to stand near magnets? There is no evidence that he did. There is also no evidence that he was an android, beyond a patent, a beard, a telegraph office, an expert in electromagnetism, and a tomb secured like a bank vault. In other words, no evidence at all. Merely excellent engineering. America did not lose a machine in 1865. It lost a man so consequential that, a century and a half later, even the absurd stories built around him still have to borrow their power from what he truly did.